So something about me. My name is Prateek. I have total experience of 8 years in QA now. I'm currently working as a senior quality assurance engineering in Mercari. My hobbies includes cooking, photography, and to read. Here is my LinkedIn profile. Please do follow and reach out to me if you want to connect. So let's start with some ice-breaking stuff. What is QA? I mean, I just wanted to know like who here thinks like QA stands for quite annoying, right? Because we usually annoy a lot of product managers, project managers, and other people with our bug reports. But seriously, it stands for quality assurance. But what does it really mean? Again, the question is remains the same. It is just about like finding bugs and just checking boxes as a checklist and saying, hey, we are done for the day. To me, we are like quality assistant. We are not assuring the quality, but we are assisting the organization and team with the quality. So we are not the gatekeepers. We are partners in building a better product, guiding the team toward excellence at every steps. um, some roles and rules. So apart from actively hunting down the bug, which is yes, we have a job to do to make sure that the product we are or the software we are delivering is stable enough in terms of quality. Um, we maintain quality of the product throughout its life cycle. We create and facilitate processes regarding the quality in the organization, try to generate a healthy quality mindset within organization. We are user advocates and we are risk managers. We are not limited to just like finding bugs. There is a lot of things which QA needs to do apart from just uh, like uh, limiting yourself to just finding bugs and say, okay, this is what we needs to do. So now let's address the elephant in the room. We say that what QA is, what the roles and responsibilities are, but again, in the QA, as in typical software development scenarios, we have challenges. And these challenges can be mechanical and technical. Since we discussed within in like the Kailash's presentations, there are new tools, a lot of technologies are happening day by day. These challenges are growing, but do we need to fear them or we need to face them? Here the choice is ours. We need to make the choice. How do we want to use these challenges to grow personally, or just to fear them? So the first one, I guess this is the most debatable topic you can see in every QA channel, teams, organization happening. It's always about manual versus automation. To me, how about skills, right? I mean, manual and automation is important, but to have like skills is even more important. So automation to me is just a tool. It's not the ultimate goal of being a skilled QA. It just helps you in like delivering the results faster, right? This meme I've just taken from the Olympics 24, getting quite famous these days. But you see, like the Turkish guy, Misut can relate in this case, right? What he did, just his, if your concepts are clear, if you are skillful, you can still win the medals. But does that mean that you don't need other skills such as automation, selenium, or like proficiency in different tools? No, you have to be like stable enough, and you need to keep a balance between the two. And if you do that, obviously you can reduce challenges by multiple folds. Let's discuss about some challenges in learning automation for today's world. So we all know that automation alone is not enough. You need those skill set on writing test cases and defining scenarios, writing test cases, finding gaps, establishing communications and whatnot. But there are like tools coming every day, and mostly the new engineers or the new graduates trying to like move into the software quality engineering teams, they don't know where to start from. And this is one of the challenge which is like doing a lot of hindrance when you want to grow. So limited to no knowledge of at least one programming languages also causes a lot lack of motivation. So you start with some tool, you start doing some mocks, and then you are not able to understand the concept, or you're not sure how this is done, and then you lose motivation. And once you lose like motivation, it poses as a challenge where you start something but you're not able to finish it. You just like drop down, and then you see, oh, there is another tool which offers this and this, and then you directly jump on that tool. You again start, you again loses motivation, and then again your learning just stops. Um, then there are like challenges in learning concepts as well. These are more like practical rather than you see them like in day to day life. So first of all, this is to my experience as well, there are lack of quality cultures within the organization. So if there is no quality culture in your organization, probably there will be no talks about quality, QA processes, how to handle like software issues, bug, and this will add as a challenge. There are like a lot of information concepts which are outdated, old, and if you try to apply them directly to your day-to-day work, you will land like nowhere. There are lack of mentorship and support from seniors to the juniors. No practical application while working on a project. They just try to do one thing, just test, test as much as you can without any direction, um, and without following any process and stuff, which poses as a challenge. The last one, which is very important, and this creates a lot of issue, is not knowing your system under the test. So whatever you are testing, whether it is a product, whether it is a software, whether it is a service, you should know actually what it is, and what actually does this want from you. So too much content in today's world, we are not realizing it, but yes, having too much content online is becoming a challenge. So instead of educating us, it often creates confusion. So because much of it's outdated, or it's simply like junk. So it is crucial to be mindful of what we are consuming. It is your responsibility. So what you are consuming, it's even correct, it's even relevant, or it's not. Because if you don't do this, again it will lead to demotivation, and rather than improving your understanding, you will just land like nowhere. So you need to be very focused. Um, but we talked about challenges and everything, but what to do, right? Because there are challenges. We talk about, okay, we have challenge in automation, we have challenge in manual testing, we have challenge in learning concepts, but what to do? So for me, I am just following these five simple points, and I'm facing them every day, and I want to share these 5 points with you as well. So quality is not just about finding bugs, it is more about prevention of issues. So I'm not limiting myself to bugs, but if I see there is an issue, I'll try to fix that as well, and consider that as a part of my roles and responsibilities. Understanding my system under the test is the key. So again, as previously as I mentioned, if I'm working on a product, if I'm working on a software, on a service, I want to know its in and out. What are the requirements? What are the user stories? Why this is being created, and how, and then the technical know-how, how things will flow. And if I have any questions, I'm just like asking my engineers, product managers, and everyone. Third one, automation is not the ultimate goal, it's just a tool. And what really matters is like how much. Automation is not the goal, it's really matters what you are automating. So if you have like 1,000 test cases and you are just automating everything, probably you can do better. You need to take out what test cases really matters to you and just automate them. The fourth one is effective communication and process can save hours of testing and initiate collaborations. So I've worked with a lot of good engineers, lot of best developers, and we always believe in knowledge sharing and collaborating. Once you are doing this, obviously you will have questions, you will tackle them, and this will help you in savings a lot of hours when you are testing. The last one would be continuous learning is the key. Obviously, the technology will change, it is changing every day, but the concepts will remain the same. and the mindset if you're having related in terms of quality, this will just really lasts. Yeah, so I guess that's all from my side. It was a very small presentation. I i just like find what I'm facing the these 2 days and try to summarize it. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can shoot out, and then we can like talk about it.
It was short but important and interesting talk. Pratik, thank you so much. I agree. QA, while doing the QA, there are too much challenges. And sometimes, like, if you do not manage properly, you might be lost, right? Because there are too many things to do. Like when you are doing the quality assurance on a product, you can do lots of different things. And what to prioritize, what to automate, as you said, those things should be the tool, not the ultimate goal. So I
Yes.
totally agree. And without stealing any more from the time, there are some questions we can go over. So let me share my screen. By the way, you didn't feel the shake, right? While you were talking, there was an earthquake.
For me, I guess it was not here. Like there
Okay.
was no one here. Yeah.
I'm close to Yokohama. It might be somewhere close. Okay. So the first one is, what is the scope of QA in feature testing as a quality assistant?
Yeah, so this is like a very wide topic, right? Defining the scope, it's always like important. But if you're testing a feature, the first thing as a quality assistant is to know what you are working on, which is like very important, because
Mm,
most of us, what we do, we just like start working on the ticket without even discussing and just seeing, okay, this task is assigned to me, and just directly either trying to write like test cases or
mm,
directly jumps into automating them. So the first step, in my opinion, the scope would be to just understand what you are working on. Because when you do that, as a quality assistant, you will get some scenarios and you can share them with the developers or the project managers or the product owners, which they might haven't thought of. So you are adding value there. That's the first thing. Then you see, if you're limiting yourself to just finding bugs, then you're not like, you are actually like creating like a lot of bugs and things for the developers and stuff. But does it add value? Probably yes, but a very short amount of time. What you can do, you can create like processes like kickoffs, collaborating with developers, product managers, sharing reports, flagging in the feature testing that this thing is not right, or maybe this feature is not matching directly with the user stories and things like that. So your scope would be obviously maintaining the quality but also adding value.
Can you give more context on that? Like, of course, finding bugs is very valuable, but we can do more, right? We
Yeah.
can do more to add value. What can we do?
Okay, so the thing is, what you can do to add value is initiate like collaboration,
Hmm,
right? What I've seen in mostly in the organization, QA is being added to the meetings very late, and then you
yes.
hear like concepts such as uh, the QA were not added, and there was like strict deadlines, and then you need to run too much cycle.
Hmm,
So you don't have to be late. You need to start early, and never goes directly without a plan. You should always have a plan, which should be very detailed, which should be like what test cases, what scenarios you are going to test, how you are going to test, what number of cycles you are going to do, how, if there is any critical bug, any prioritized bug, how will we be prioritizing them. So you will be helping your product managers and project managers even
hmm,
in like prioritizing things, which can add a lot of values, because it saves times for them to
hmm.
do this analysis. So if you do that, you obviously add value.
This makes a lot of sense. Like, we might already have found a lot of bugs, but how about analyzing them and for the future, improving not only the product but also our processes too, right? We can
Yes.
talk with several people not to have the same bugs again and again. So maybe do the root cause analysis and to try to improve the processes, not only the product itself.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm. All right.
One good thing, as you mentioned, Ms. Utan, I've started recently is what I used to do a lot earlier is called writing a postmortem report, which
Yes.
really helps after a feature. You just
Mhm.
bring all the stakeholders together, and in the
Yes.
retrospective, you don't have to blame actually because the team is working together.
Yeah.
You just need to highlight like points what we missed, what we can improve. If you want to create a delta, you can create that delta as well
Mhm.
and can include this as a part of your process.
Yes. Postmortems are great to analyze the underlying reasons.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Let's go to the next. If I heard correctly, can you give an example of your QA process that helps in the prevention of issues that involve solving the issue? A little bit related, but you can still answer.
Yeah. So I've worked with like different organizations, and one thing which I have learned and which I've experienced is if your A organization following certain things, your B organization is following certain things, you don't just copy paste what your A organization follows to B, because if you do that, you will land nowhere. Because every organizations have a different style, every team has a different style of working, so you need to have a process on a
Mhm.
broader terms, but then you have to like redo them as per your convenience. So
Mhm.
what we do is a very simple on a broader scale. If I tell you, we have a kickoff meeting, then you have like project discussions where like developers talk about where basically it start with the business, that this new feature is coming, this is the user stories and things like that. And when developers talks about how they're going to develop it, QA, on the other hand, try to go back and look what test cases do they have, what tests are going to be effective, and if there is going to affect any test, we try to like modify them and refactor them so that we can, like comply with the new feature. And we can add like more tests, we can like more scenarios. So while the development is happening, you already have a set of some test cases which you can run with the developers to see when you have a software ready, at least the first version at the final stages, it's stable enough, and then you just need to run a minimum set of test cases, or maybe a sanity or smoke or just one cycle to see that things work fine.
Mhm.
So it's more about like involving yourself in the earlier stages
Mhm.
and talking to them. So like initiating collaboration, not restricting to myself that okay, when it comes to me, I'll do that. If no one is taking that initiative, I usually do that, and I do that as a part of all the processes, and it really helps. So that's one thing I do.
Too many times we are saying communication skills are very important, especially for the testers, right? Because
Yes.
we are talking to too many people, like going to product managers, engineers, and trying to understand the feature, or talking to the developers, how they implement it. So talking with a lot of people. So your communication skills is very important as a tester.
Yes, yes. And not only skills, Misut, I also want to highlight that you should know your product better, because if you
Yes.
don't know it and if you're just trying to talk to someone and you don't know how things works
Mhm.
or what is there, so you will be just standing there like confused,
Mhm.
which does not give a good impression. So
Mhm.
that is why I always say like know your system under test, in and
Yes.
out.
Yes, you should know very well. Yes. Next, about the scope question, do you do execute the testing? Do you execute the tests? Do you review if automation test results? Or do developers execute some tests, then add on top of that?
So this is like if I understood it correctly, how actually I do is, if I'm working with a team and I ask them to give me a set of unit test cases and to check what I have it in my E2E, and if I feel my E2E can be done in the unit stages, I'll just offload them to the developers and ask them to test there. And what I do in my E2E is just to have a user scenarios where how users would do an end-to-end testing. For example, if in a marketplace, how the usual flow would look like you need to just log in, search some product, add it, purchase it, payment, and log out. But so this kind of scenario I will do it, but having like multiple users, incorrect logging, correct logging, special case characters is supported or not. I guess it's better if we do it one level lower, or even if we don't have integration, let's just offload it to the developers to do like unit tests. So that's one good approach I do.
This is interesting. So you reviewed the unit tests, right? You said
Yes, yes.
you
Yeah, I
reviewed the
mean,
test code or maybe test definition.
this definition, obviously, not the code, but the definition.
Okay,
Yes,
I see.
just to make sure like we are not like overlapping, right? Just
Yeah,
not
yeah.
like overlap scenarios.
Hmm.
Because yeah, because if you are doing the redundant things again, it does not like adding much value.
Hmm.
Mm,
Makes sense. Yes. Yeah, there are sometimes too much overlaps and duplication.
yes.
Okay. Next, do you have automation in your projects, UI or API? If you have, could you please share which frameworks you use?
So yeah, so currently I'm working with iOS and having XUIT as a test framework. I am also working with Android with Espresso and Jest. API is written in Playwright using JavaScript with Jest as a testing framework. Previously, I worked with Python and PyTest
Mhm.
with Selenium. We then migrated to Playwright with Selenium, and we also did some dummy for the Cypress.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that's the tool I worked on, and the frameworks.
You should present those mobile test frameworks too, Prateek, sometime.
Yeah, maybe in the next talk I'll bring like limitations of XUIT.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, let's move on. What are the ways a QA professional can bridge communication gaps with non-tech
Hmm,
stakeholders
hmm.
for them to understand the progress of a product's development?
Okay, so how QA professional can bridge communication gaps with non-tech? How usually I do this? Since I know my system well enough, I know the technical in and outs, but the non-tech people might not understand. But what they can understand uh, is simple English, right? So you can leverage behavior-driven scenarios here. If you can write those scenarios or problems in a simple English, then given when you are making an effective
Mhm,
communication and they actually know what things are happening.
mhm,
But again, if you when you are automating it or when you are writing like test cases, you can obviously go with data driven or test driven, because
mhm,
that's really happen and it's fine, it's as per your convenience. um, Understanding progress of a product report development. First, if you are presenting an automation framework report, make sure you are using a report which is having like matrices which actually like adding value to those reports and does not like calculating or like generating just redundant data. It
mhm,
should be meaningful. And especially if you are executing test cases manually, you should use like effective reporting. There are like multiple things which you can do if you're using like test rails or like Rike or any other like test management tool. They usually generate reports.
mhm,
The thing is, you just need to make sure that how you are reporting it to the stakeholders,
mhm.
and those numbers should talk about your progress as well. So that's how you, in my opinion, you should do that.
This makes a lot of sense. Like most of frameworks can generate very beautiful reports. Like there can be several graphs or some other metrics about the test results, but you should
Yes.
be able to present it properly so that all
Yeah.
the parties understand the situation.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
Alrighty.
good.
Yes. Next, are QA engineers part of development Scrum team? Do they work inside sprints?
Yes, they are. And if they are not, then probably there is something wrong with the process. You should be part of the Scrum team and you
Mhm.
should work inside sprints.
But there are different structures. Like in some organizations, there are separate QA teams. In some, they are working all together.
Mhm.
So I would say it depends.
Yeah, true, it depends. But like even if you are working with a different team in a project, at least that team is following a sprint. So ideally you should have some tickets in their sprint as well,
Mhm,
just to make sure what you are doing you are
mhm.
logging. right? Because if you're working as a QA team as a whole, obviously you'll have a sprint, you'll have like task, but those are not like project specific. Probably it can be implementation of a new test case, maintenance of a framework,
Mhm.
uh, introducing a new process or something. But what actually you are doing on a project, you can have your tickets in those sprints, and you can like track them there.
So either way, you are working in a sprint.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. Cool. Next question. If you were to build automation into your project from scratch, which steps would you take when starting out?
I mean, this again depends like person to person, but there can be some general things which we can check before like directly jumping into the automation. The first thing, at least what I would see, is if my team choosing the language in which my team is comfortable, and it's not just me.
Mhm.
So if I know like Python in and out, but my team members don't know, I will not go for a tool which only supports Python.
Mhm.
So I will take a survey in if my team members are comfortable in which language. Then let's say if a team is comfortable with JavaScript, then you have a next step to make a choice between JavaScript tools, right? Then based on the costs, how they're performing, and do they even like solve your problem. For example, if you bring in a tool which does not solve your problem but adds like more problem, then that's an issue, right? So the thing is, you need to check like whether the tools you are opting for is going to solve your problem is not. So once the tool is decided, the language is decided, then you can discuss about the costs, how it's going to add value again. Does it support like reporting, because ultimately you need to do that. How well you can integrate it with the CI/CD, because again at the end of the day you are not running tests locally on your machine. You
Mhm.
need to run on the pipelines, generate reports, and make sure that the product is stable. So you need to check that integration as well. The last one would be then how you want to design, like which design pattern you want to follow, whether you're going for page object, whether you are writing like helpers, utilities. And then again, I mean, these are like some of the steps you can follow and say like how would you do that.
Mhm. All right, thanks a lot. And I think we covered all the questions. Oh, there's one more. How you manage writing automation tests of the task, parallel to development or after the development?
So automation task, obviously you cannot do this when the development is happening, but what you can do, you can check your existing test cases in the automation suite and just try to make sure that whether they will be compliant to it or not. How usually it's done, since if I talk about Mercari, the lot of features are depending on like features flag. So you can just turn on the flag and you can just like run them. Like if you turn
Mhm.
on the flag, run your test case against them. If you turn off that flag and run your test cases against them. So you just need to make sure that when you are doing with the feature flag on, how many test cases are failing, and then you can like, because you know like the features how it's going to develop, because I'm assuming the requirements are not going to change at the later stage, which can happen, but the chances are still like pretty low. And then you can do the maintenance part there. And once you are ensure that the feature is like going to release and you have time now, then you can go through your manual test cases which you have written for that feature, take out the most important ones, start automating them, and then you can gradually add like more and more test cases.
Can you explain that feature flex a little bit more? How does it work?
So suppose you have an application, right? And you are adding a new feature. So what you do, you basically create a flag for it. You
Mhm.
want to like whether you want to turn that feature or whether you want to turn off that feature.
Mhm.
And then in the mobile cases, you roll out to certain user, right? So when you test them, if the feature is off, it's a simple application. But when you on the feature flag, now the product contains your feature, and when you run your automation test against it, there will be some failures, for example due to new pop-ups, new screens, and things like that. And then you know what you needs to be done, so and what the existing test cases are failing, why they are failing. So I can give an example. So let's say you are adding a feature where uh, if the item is like if the purchase is successful, you will show a notification that purchase is successful, because previously you were just showing a note like the snack bar, but now you want to show a pop-up. So you can obviously use this a feature flag concept where when you run this feature flag on, you will see you have a test cases for purchasing and stuff, and then you see look, those cases are failing, right? And you know they will be fixed because there is a new pop-up. So you
Mhm.
can always write a page object for them, the locator for them, and things like that.
Mhm.
And when the feature is off, your tests are passing. So as soon as the feature is released in the branch, you can just make it on, run your test case again, then you'll see okay the feature is stable enough, and then you need to do like minimal set of manual test cases, and then you say okay it's good to go, and then you roll out to the customers.
But you have different stages, right? Before the production, probably you have staging or QA, something like that.
Yeah. So from main there is always a branch cut, and then you need to run your automation suite on that branch with feature flag on, and see
Mm.
how it is to.
Okay. I was thinking if you really need it, like if you just deploy everything to the QA without any flags, if you have everything in place.
Yeah, it happens. You can do that, obviously you can do that, but then it's a lot of like maintenance basically you need to do in your framework. And in terms of like feature flag, there is an advantage. If the feature is not doing well or there are like a lot of queries, you
Hmm.
can obviously turn them off, and it's not released to the customer at all.
I see. Okay. It's more configurable and
Yes,
much
full
more
configuration.
flexible.
Yes,
You
yes,
can
yes.
turn on or off any specific
Off.
function.
And you can do this in stages actually, like in percent wise. So you can do like 10%, 40%, 50%, and then
Okay.
you just monitor, like in the A/B testing you just monitor
A/B
like how
test,
things
like
are.
A/B testing. Okay. 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 I see. Alrighty. Let me check. Do we have any more questions? I think we don't. And we are close to the end of this night, this event. So, yes, I think we are done. So, okay, I want to thank you both, Pratik and Kailash. It was a perfect night for me. I learned a lot. I really enjoyed the discussions. I hope everyone did as well. So, feel free to propose more, submit more talks. You are always welcome to present. And for everybody, please follow our events. We have almost monthly events. We have online meetings, and if you are around Tokyo, we have some on-site events too. And yeah, hopefully we will meet in the next event, which will be, I think, early September.